Alrighty there, we're back. And now, after having played through the entire tutorial of this game on keyboard, I am going to try it on controller. If y'all recall, last time we left off a couple of chapters into the first level, so let's pick things up. November 22nd, 1:14 p.m., Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 2. Okay, so court record. I'm kind of hoping that most of this is just the same as in the Phoenix Wright games, because those controls are pretty intuitive. Actually, let's take a second here. Oh, welcome to the stream, Brittle. Let's take a second here and recap our cast. This is Kazuma Asogi, our friend who is a qualified defense lawyer and whose position on a study abroad trip to Great Britain is on the line here. This is Dr. Mikotoba. He's one of our teachers. Takatsuchi Ouchi, the prosecutor that we're up against. The victim in this case, John H. Wilson. Satoru Hosonaga, head waiter and actually police investigator. Yasunosa, one of the earlier witnesses. Kyoryo Kurekuta, another witness earlier. Giselle Brett, the murderer, who is trying to frame us. And Susato Mikotoba, who just kind of showed up. Miss Brett met up with the victim at a restaurant, had lunch while he sat there, and poisoned his drink and then removed that cup so there would be no evidence. And I'm guessing this girl has brought that cup.
Well,
Now, back to the story, I guess.
Well, I understand you are the judicial assistant to the defense, but why this sudden ingress into my courtroom?
A judicial assistant? And a woman, no less? Dude, you spent like half of last stream simping hard. You do not get to talk smack about women. The rules state that females are not permitted into this court of law other than to testify. Yes, I fully understand. I only ask for 5 minutes of time. I have some vital evidence that I must hand over to the defense. You're too late, little girl. This trial has already been concluded.
5 minutes. I will not allow a moment more.
But, Your Excellency, I'm most grateful. Who exactly are you? I'm sorry, there's no time. Please, simply accept this for now. What is it? A report about something written in English. It's Josiah Brett's research. The Englishwoman's? After the trial resumed earlier, I hurried back to the university. I went to Dr. Wilson's laboratory in the medical facility and borrowed this paper. Oh yes, that's right. Miss Brett was studying under the professor, wasn't she? So, does this research, whatever it is, have something to do with the case? I'm afraid I don't know. I haven't been able to listen to the proceedings of the trial myself. Oh, no, of course not. Special characteristics of curare and its effects on human subjects. Interesting. Curare? What's that? Time's up! The prosecution demands the immediate removal of this female trespasser from the courtroom. Dang, this guy's going full incel. Okay then. There was too little time for me to read it in detail, but I've summarized what I could on a note just inside the cover. If you think it could be valuable, please cast your eye over it. This is wonderful, thank you. Gisele's report has been entered into the court record, detailing an unknown poison that Miss Brett has been researching during her time at UMay University. Goodbye then, and good luck. Alright, let's take a look. Let's examine. Poison made from the bark of certain trees in the jungles of South America. The hunters of the region have used it since ancient times to incapacitate their prey. Instant paralysis of the entire body and subsequent death, even in minute doses. Route of entry. The above-mentioned effects occur when poison enters the body through a wound, such as that inflicted by a blowpipe dart. Due to its ability to render the human body paralytic, it's believed that the toxin could have applications as an anesthetic. However, a solution for the respiratory arrest caused as a result of the full-body paralysis must be found first, or patients would die of suffocation. Ooh, so maybe she was performing an experimental anesthesia. Maybe she was using an experimental anesthesia on the guy, on the professor during his dental work. Something went wrong.
You have had long enough, Counsel. We cannot detain our English guest any longer.
Oh, they're back.
I ask the prosecution and the defense now, one last time. Does either side have any further evidence to present to the court? I presume not, but...
Prosecution has made its case convincingly enough already. Nothing more to add, Your Excellency. Ryu, we're out of options here. This really is our very last chance. Yes, I know. Your Excellency, the defense does have new evidence.
That look. The unyielding stare of a true Japanese warrior. Well, Miss Brett?
Yes, Your Excellency.
If you wouldn't mind, perhaps you could grace us with your presence a little longer.
It's a delightful invitation, but I'm afraid it's not so very long until tea time. I'll have to politely decline.
Forgive me, Miss Brett. It seems I wasn't clear. I realize it was phrased as a question. However, I must ask you to treat that as an order.
I do like this judge. I've said it many times before, but the Japanese language makes no sense.
My apologies, dear lady. So, counsel, what is this new evidence that demands the court's attention?
Well, you see, Your Honor, I am a student. Gotta start things off strong with shoving my badge in everyone's face.
Yes.
Miss Giselle Brett, we understand you were studying under Dr. Wilson at UMA University, doing research. Research, by sheer coincidence perhaps, into a deadly poison. What?
Poison? Where are you going with this, Counsel?
A toxin known as Curare, Your Excellency. Even the slightest amount of this deadly poison entering the body leads to instant death. 1 sec, I'm gonna turn on the fan. It always seems to go like this. I get started with the stream, I check the temperature in the room, it feels like it's perfectly reasonable, and then as soon as I've been streaming for a few minutes, I realize just how much heat my computer outputs when it's streaming.
Objection!
What complete and utter nonsense! Curare, you say? I've never even heard of it. You wouldn't have. What do you mean? I mean that you wouldn't have heard of Curare before for one very simple reason. It doesn't exist in our country. It doesn't exist. Correct, which means no matter what tests the police can do for toxins, they'd never identify Curare. Why? Because there is no test available here that can identify the presence of this highly deadly poison. What?
Order, order, order! Counsel, does this deadly poison truly exist?
According to this report, authored by the visiting research student from England, Curare has long been used by the tribespeople of South America as a poison to lace their arrows. It seems that it's reasonably well known among European doctors and scientists. To lace their arrows? The report states it is produced from the extract of a tree that grows deep in the Amazonian jungle, and it was first brought back to Europe at the turn of the century by explorers. It claims that animals shot by arrows laced with Curare suffer instant death. Doesn't that about sum it up, Miss Brett?
Objection!
Trumpery! These aspersions are utter trumpery. These aspersions come from the witness's own research booklet. You're the one who called her and claimed she's a credible witness. Like, I realize I'm playing as the most Canadian-Japanese person ever, but even I could point that out. To start with, if the victim had been administered some of this so-called deadly poison, he would have been squirming and writhing in pain, and the other diners would surely have noticed.
That's true. What do you say to that, Inspector?
Obviously, I would have noticed a disturbance like that. I don't remember anything like that either. I didn't notice the professor being in any kind of pain. According to this, however, it's the other way around. What do you mean, the other way around? The very fact that the victim didn't show any visible signs of distress is evidence that Curare was used.
Explain yourself, Counsel.
Thank you. I am doing my best with them despite still being a little bit stuffed up. It's allergies, because it's that time of year. The moment this toxin enters a person's system, it causes instant paralysis. In other words, afflicted victims lose all strength and are completely unable to move. Even if they were in total agony, there would be no visible signs of pain at all. How terrible. Obviously, if a man lost all strength in his muscles, he'd collapse on the floor. But with a chair under him for support, as Dr. Wilson had, the effects could go on largely unnoticed. But I don't follow, Kazuma. That's just paralysis. I thought the poison caused instant death. The full explanation is extremely unpleasant. Poison causes immediate paralysis, as I said, leaving the victim unable to move. But after a short time, the paralysis is so severe it causes the muscles that control respiration to fail. Respiration? In other words, the actual cause of death is suffocation. And all the while the victim is conscious and aware, just unable to move. That's hideous! To the observer, it would look almost like the victim was slipping peacefully into an endless sleep. But for the victim himself, his final moments would be a living hell. That is the true nature of this deadly curare poison. Alright, well, time to have her drink from the bottle.
And you're suggesting that this bottle, Counsel, actually contains this terrifying poison.
Objection!
This is all very convenient, isn't it? A hitherto unknown poison for which there is no means of testing. What a happy tale for the defense. If I may. All these facts, you think you're so clever, but... Hang on, I want to... You must be taught some manners. It is you who must be taught. Of course. Dear lady. So, this is how you Japanese behave, is it? What? You steal another's honest hard work, and then announce the results as if you discovered them. I'm appalled. What a loathsome act. Well, Miss Brett, the feeling is mutual. Whatever do you mean? Capitalizing on the unfortunate circumstances of an innocent man to frame him for a heinous crime? That really is a loathsome act. Wouldn't you agree?
Objection!
Enough of this. I, for one, refuse to accept it. The idea of some poison that doesn't even exist in the great empire of Japan is breaking the rules. So is murder, last I checked. Anyway, have her drink from the bottle already. Come on. Of course, there is still the remaining issue, which is probably what she's about to point out. There's still no explanation for how he was shot if Ryu didn't shoot him, because we haven't pointed out where she was hiding the gun, which, again, I'm sticking with her hat. Oh, excuse me, Your Excellency.
Yes, Miss Brett?
May I borrow that bottle for a moment, please?
Well, yes, I don't see why not.
Is she about to smash it? She's probably about to drink it. Because, as I've pointed out before, it was probably only his cup that was poisoned. Don't get too big for your boots, you insignificant little island boys. Sorry? To an Englishwoman such as myself, this whole affair is a farcical comedy. Your little police games and these foolish courtroom antics, it's laughable, really. But I'm getting bored of it all now. It's time for these games to end. Cheers! Wait, what are you doing? No sparkle left at all. How appropriate for this shabby affair. Welcome to the stream, B. Oh, and welcome to the stream, Rafkin. Goodness, whatever is the matter? You all look quite stunned. So, no cure. The bottle was clean, is that what you're saying? You look quite incredulous, little boy, but of course, that's the simple truth. Thank you for presenting the findings of my research so concisely here in this grand venue. Most kind. I do want to drop a quick save. Thank you, waiter. Now then, Your Excellency. Yes, Miss Brett. I should like to be excused now, please. I think I've given more than enough of my time for the furtherance of friendship between our countries.
Yes, dear lady, we are most gratified with all the assistance you've given.
This doesn't make sense. There had to have been poison in that bottle. No, the professor had to drink poison. There had to be poison in his cup. Come on, it's not that hard to figure out. How did she swallow a whole glass and live to tell the tale? I don't understand it. Well, I suppose if nothing else, this little Far Eastern charade make for interesting conversation at the next party I attend in London. There has to have been poison in that bottle, doesn't there? But there can't have been, because otherwise she would have keeled over dead. Come on, Ryunosuke, we have all the clues now. That bottle of water contains no poison. As I thought, there is no poison in that bottle. What? Why, Ryu? Isn't it obvious? If there was no poison in there, she'd be dead by now. If there was poison in there, she'd be dead by now. Sometimes your unadulterated naivete really astounds me. But sometimes it's in need of a good staining. Until it's as dark as your uniform and the ways of the world. Oh, is that what this color is supposed to represent? Their uniform is brown. Yeah, accurate representation of the ways of the world. That was a guileless ending to a promising line of inquiry. Wait. What? I'm just so confused. Like it... The answer is so simple. The bottle didn't contain poison. It just contained... It was just in the glass. That's not what was being asked. You know what? No, I'm not taking the penalty to the case score for that. Like, that... This is not what he proceeds to claim. He does not claim that the bottle of water contains poison. He claims that the dude's drink contains poison. The culprit did put Curare poison into Dr. Wilson's carbonated water. The defense refuses to change its position. You're serious?
Objection!
Fool, are you blind? There's no possible way that bottle could contain poison. I mean, we just saw Miss Brett drinking the water from it. That's right, which rather complicates your argument, I think. And I believe that complication can be explained. How exactly? I need to think through all the things that don't quite add up here, one by one. I'm sure the answer is in the evidence we have in the court record somewhere. It has to be.
Very well. If the defense truly intends to assert this claim, then I must ask you to support the assertion with evidence. What explains how the witness was able to consume this supposedly poisoned water unscathed?
I'm going to save here as well because I feel like I'm a few steps ahead. I think the actual thing that I'm supposed to present here is her research, which, if you recall, was talking about how it could be adjusted, how a solution could be found for the respiratory arrest. But I'm going to go with my gut and say that it is the photograph.
Yes!
It's so stupid. Come on. It's so painfully obvious here.
Yes!
The answer to this riddle is right here in Miss Brett's own research report.
Objection!
That's not a valid explanation. No? After all, we don't speak English. That report is utter gibberish. This impudent young scoundrel is trying to ridicule the court, Your Excellency. I'm not trying to ridicule anyone, honest. I'm just reading Susato-san's notes. I concur. This report is too extensive to be considered in its entirety by the court. You will direct us to the pertinent section, counsel. Which section of the report reveals the alleged answer to the riddle? Practical applications. It's written right here under practical applications, I think. Oh, really? Go on! Well, think about it. You want to know how the poison can be drunk without it taking effect. That's... I'm so confused where they're going with this now. Okay, it must be special characteristics and the fact that it's not a potion that is drunk. Ooh. But he had just had a tooth pulled, which means he had an open wound.
Yes. Objection.
I mean, that's a bit roundabout. But I guess it works. We've been hearing a lot about this Curare poison. And it's left me curious about something.
Oh, counsel?
Well, it sounds as though the indigenous hunters have been using this poison for years and years to lace the heads of arrows that you shoot at whatever prey they're hunting.
So we've been led to believe, yes?
And the point of hunting is to catch prey to eat. Get to the point, please! But if they were to use these laced arrows, doesn't that mean there would be traces of poison left in the prey the hunters were going to eat? Yes, good point. So surely the hunters wouldn't want to eat their prey, would they? Because then they'd be eating poison.
Good gracious, counsel. No, that would be madness.
But I actually found the answer to that conundrum in this research paper here. Under special characteristics, it says this. Poison starts to work after entering the body through a wound.
Through a wound, you say? I see, that makes sense.
Yes, the mention of that particular detail seemed a little strange to me, though. But it all makes sense when you interpret what's written like this. When the Curare enters the body through an open wound, it has terrifying poisonous effects. However, when it enters the body via the mouth, it has no poisonous effects whatsoever. What? Miss Brett, you authored this research. You knew Curare's special characteristics, and you knew that you could make a spectacle of drinking that water without any danger to yourself. You meddling little... Wait, it's alive? Why is she wearing a live goose? I'm so very confused. Well, Ryu, it turns out you're an even better lawyer than I thought you'd be. Really? Me?
Objection!
Oh, this poison talk is fascinating, I'm sure, but I fail to see how it possibly... So, the ill-bred little puppy has a new toy to play with. Some facts he read in a book. But I'm afraid the knowledge doesn't suit you, little boy. It only makes you look silly. What are you trying to say? Your schoolboyish logic has a fatal flaw. Schoolboyish? Flaw? As even your brain has managed to deduce, pure air is safe to ingest. But it seems likely that its effects are neutralized by the acidic nature of the gastric succus. Oh yes, well, of course. Gastric suckers? What are they? So, if this lethal poison is completely harmless when drunk, the professor wouldn't have died when he swallowed it, would he? Ah, that's right!
Good gracious.
That's basic science. Science that even a schoolboy should be able to understand, no?
Order. Order in the court. Order. Look at my commanding beard as I tell you. Order. The logic holds. If the lady and the professor drink the same poison, they would be affected the same way. Are you trying to suggest...
Yes, this Curare poison is completely irrelevant to the case on trial. That's right. Surely even a little cockroach like you could understand something as simple as that. What is this welling up inside me? I've never felt like this before. It's a sort of conviction to break down all the discrepancies. It's so intense, almost rage-like. And more than anything else, it's an animalistic desire to take down my prey. Hey, we got the point and the word objection. Oh. I don't think so, Miss Giselle Brett. How dare you use that tone with me? You know very well that there is no fatal flaw here. You know exactly why, even though both you and the victim swallowed the same poison. You are alive, but Dr. Wilson is dead. Counsel, I'm sure I don't need to remind you. You must provide compelling evidence. As we now know that this poison is completely harmless when ingested, why would Dr. Wilson alone have been killed by the Curare? I'm saving in case it decides that my answer is wrong even though I'm right. He was killed because he had just had a tooth removed.
Take that!
As Miss Brett so readily pointed out, she drank the same water as the professor. However, there was a fundamental and fatal difference between the two diners.
A fatal difference?
The toxic effects of Curare are only felt when the poison enters the body through an open wound. So, for a healthy person with no injuries, drinking it is completely harmless. But what if there was a wound inside the mouth of the person drinking the poisoned water? Inside? Yes, like the wound you might have if you had just been to the dentist and had a tooth extracted, for example. Ah! Miss Brett, you've acknowledged many times in your testimony already that you were well aware of Dr. Wilson's dental appointment that day. So that's it. He used that knowledge to orchestrate this. Well, there is still the issue of the bullet hole in his chest. We're not done yet. Is she laughing? I don't like to repeat myself, but honestly, I can't resist. These childish courtroom games and your half-baked arguments are so puerile. What do you mean? Yeah, I'll be honest. Please define puerile. Okay, I gotta look this one up, honestly. I've got no clue here. Puerile. Childish, silly, and trivial. Don't worry, little schoolboy. You'll find out soon enough. You see, when you leave vital evidence lying around, you never know what might happen to it.
No.
I mean, it could just slip. So yeah, she just destroyed evidence in the courtroom. Oh dear, how careless of me. I'm afraid some crucial evidence may have just been tragically destroyed. No! What is it? What just happened? It's the Englishwoman. She just smashed that bottle. And in the Supreme Court, what a terrible blunder.
Officer, what are you waiting for? Collect up as much of that the water from that broken bottle as possible, at once.
You're wasting your time. This delightful carpet under my feet here was a gift from the British Empire. I assure you, it will soak up the water beautifully. I have neither the technology nor the presence of mind to recover it. How could you? You won't get away with this. You can thump the bench and shout as much as you like, little boy. But I'm afraid we'll never know now, will we? If there really was poison in the bottle or not. And let us not forget, we still have some very compelling evidence left intact. Isn't that right, counsel for the prosecution? Oh, of course. You're referring to this photographic print, I presume, dear lady. I mean, I'm just going to ignore the fact that you just actively and deliberately destroyed evidence within a courtroom, and once again be convinced because I'm a massive simp. That's right, and really, looking at this photograph, it's as clear as day, isn't it? The poor professor was sitting with his back to me. So of course, the only person who could have shot him from the front is the little schoolboy. No, you killed the victim that day using Curer. And then, in order to frame Ryu for the crime, you waited until he picked up the pistol you'd arranged for him to find on the floor before you shot the professor's dead body in the chest with your own hidden gun. Then, in the confusion that followed, all you had to do was turn the dead professor in his chair around. You see, you had every opportunity to commit this crime. What a wonderful imagination you have, young man. How come I get schoolboy and he gets young man? Like, again, I'm Canadian. Ryu is Canadian. He's not going to complain, but I think it seems unfair. A hidden gun, you say, and I shot the professor's dead body, did I? Well, I'm terribly sorry, but you don't have a shred of evidence. Exactly. And as you have nothing to support your wild claims, the prosecution's stance remains unchanged. The victim, Dr. John H. Wilson, was killed by a gunshot to the chest. Delivered in cold blood by the accused Ryunosuke Naruhodo. This is unbelievable. How can this be happening? We had her, but now... Is she really going to get away with it? The way she destroyed that evidence was obscene. Ryu. Yes? We've come this far, but now... Now you're the only one who can finish it. What? What do you mean? We've lost a vital piece of evidence, it's true. So if there are any clues left for us to use now, they must be in your head. In my head. You told me before that your powers of observation were the one thing you could really depend on. Well, yes, that's true, but I didn't manage to notice that this woman was a foreigner with a swan on her head. So think back again now. Try to remember every last detail about the scene that day. Everything you saw, everything you felt, every color, every smell. What I saw, what I felt. Every color. Is Kazuma right? Somewhere in the vibrant memory of this same scene in my head? Could there be another clue to expose the identity of Dr. Wilson's killer? This is bizarre. Actually, Kazuma, I think I might have something. Thinking back over everything I saw, I think I might have uncovered another clue. You always have something up your sleeve, don't you, Ryu? If this is how this is going to get solved, that's kind of weird. Like, I wouldn't mind if there was some mechanic where he went into his memories to investigate the crime scene. But if it's just going to zoom in and suddenly there's blood there, that's kind of... I'm not a fan of that. Come on then, let's wipe the smug smile off that Englishwoman's face with some evidence. Alright, I can't wait. It's been niggling me for a while that something feels amiss in my memories of that day. Whatever it is could be the key to arriving at the truth about all this. It's here somewhere, the clue that shows who Dr. Wilson's real killer must have been is. Like, how am I supposed to present this? I get that we're going to say that there was blood on the table as well, and, like, the detective will confirm it, but... How am I presenting my memories?
Take that!
Inspector Hosonaga, answer me this. Yes, what is it? He's still miles away, probably thinking about that bottle being smashed. As you've said a number of times now, you strive for perfection in your investigations, don't you? Absolutely. I wonder, therefore, if perhaps you took anything else from the scene of the crime. Like, for instance, the plate of steak that you took to the victim's table that day? Wait a minute, where are you going with the... Where are you going with this, little boy? It's just a memory that's been troubling me. What memory? I saw the scene shown in this photographic print with my own eyes that day. And I saw that on the wooden base of the plate that the steak was served on was a spattering of blood. What? Oh, really? And what of it? Obviously, that must have happened when you shot the professor. No, that can't be the case. Take a good look at the photograph and the relative position of everything there. The plate of steak is almost directly behind the victim. If I'm supposed to have shot Dr. Wilson in the chest from the front, there's no way that the blood from the victim could have ended up directly behind him. Ah! Yes. For blood to have made it onto the plate implies the plate was between the victim and the shooter, which means the shooter must have been sitting opposite the professor as you were. Giselle Brett. I beg your pardon. This is beyond ridiculous, fabricated nonsense. Is the court seriously expected to believe something the accusers apparently just remembered seeing?
Hold it!
He did steal the plate from the crime scene. This could be the moment that my entire career in the police force has been leading to. Well, you're probably going to be fired after this, because again, concealing evidence and all that. Concealing a witness, no less. Inspector, you don't mean... Yes, I took the plate in the interest of preserving evidence from the scene of the crime. I took it meat and all. And I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief because of it. They probably should, to be honest. You did what? I took the steak that you had been eating, Miss Brett. I took the steak that the sergeant had been eating. And I did it all in the name of justice. Okay, but again, you concealed a witness. Then we can find out for sure whether or not there's a blood stain on Miss Brett's plate. We must examine it now. Inspector.
The court wishes to examine the plate from the victim's table immediately.
Yes, sir. Okay, but we're still going to be expected to account for whether she had a gun. Here's what you ordered. Oh, wait. Sorry for the delay. Here's what you ordered. The steak. Well, what about the blood? Is there blood on it? Of course there isn't.
Quickly, Inspector, the blood man. Show the court.
Of course. Examine the plate at your leisure. No. No blood. No blood anywhere. No, that's impossible. I know I saw it. I'm sure of it. It's right there on the table behind the professor. There's blood on the side of the plate. What an unbecoming expression, little boy. Okay, wait. I was going to say she has like a little pull string or something to make it flap out. You see, this is why I always say you can't trust what the Japanese tell you. That is so incredibly rich. Dude, do you even hear yourself? I couldn't agree more in the case of this disgrace to the Empire.
I believe we may have finally reached a conclusion in this trial.
Let's hope so. This let's pretend attempt at courtroom proceedings is painful to watch. But I do promise to do my best to forget all about it when it's over. Ah, this sorry-looking steak reveals the facts all too well. If the sorry-looking accused wishes to examine it again, be my guest. Oh, see, now I'm gonna, like, flip it over and find the blood on the bottom or something. Was the plate I saw or thought I saw just a figment of my imagination? This is it now. I've lost. Alright, let's take a look. Huh? What in the world is this? I think it's a Koban coin from... Okay, so we're going to account for the presence of the coin, which means this plate came from the other table. It was where the sergeant had stashed the coin that he tried to steal from the antique dealer. Which means she swapped the plate from another table to this one. No, I don't mean what is it. I mean, what's it doing there? Wait, did you say it was a Hoei Koban? Yes, and apart from the meat juices, it looks to be in good condition. I imagine it's very valuable. This isn't the first time today that there's been talk of a Hoei Koban. I've heard of pearls before swine, but never bullion and... Okay, I appreciate that one. And I don't think you ever will again. This is extraordinary, though. This means... Certainly never expected to find a precious coin underneath this thick cut of meat. This is from the Hoei era too. That would make it quite valuable. It's well marinated in the juices as well. What, are you thinking of eating it? No, but the next time I order a steak in an expensive restaurant, one thing's for sure. My heart's going to be racing as I lift up the meat and peer underneath for a prize. I think you might have the wrong end of the stick about this, Ryu. A Koban coin underneath the steak. There's only one logical explanation. Okay, but now let's look at the bowl. Is it a cat? It's a cow, obviously. Most likely because the restaurant's signature dish is beefsteak. It seems a lot of different restaurants have their own unique tableware. So this is a symbol of La Carnival, isn't it? Is it? So I'm curious. I'm not sure. I feel fairly confident that there are at least some kinds of cows native to, like, Asia broadly. Like, that makes sense to me, but I'm wondering now where cows originate from. Like, were they exclusive? Did the Europeans bring them to America? Or did America bring them to the Europeans, or whatnot? And what kinds are in Asia and whatnot? Because this seems like a very American steak as I picture it, but I couldn't be sure. Anyway. Okay, we've examined the evidence. It's not over yet, not until the final gavel. Never stop believing in yourself. Keep looking forward, no matter what. Believe in myself. Really? Maybe I should at least examine the evidence. It's okay, I already realized. Oh, I forgot to actually read that. As the evidence requested by the defense has not been shown to be problematic in any way. I mean, do it. You know, do what you gotta do. Just remember to share it with chat, you know. If anyone's eating snacks on stream, you gotta share with chat. I presume any further examination of evidence in this trial will be unnecessary. Does the defense have any objection? There's another clue. Your Excellency, please wait. This plate of beef is hiding another clue. A clue that will reveal the shocking truth. The only thing that's shocking here is your healthy fascination with beefsteak. No, that's reasonable. Your Excellency, I think I've made myself clear, haven't I? I'll not be able to turn a blind eye to any more unnecessary procrastination in this trial.
I'm sorry, Miss Brett, but we must ensure a thorough examination of the evidence.
I mean, maybe the prosecutor is a vegetarian. I couldn't speak to it.
I will not give a ruling until I'm completely satisfied that all reasonable doubt has been dispelled.
I see. As a newly affirmed ally of my country, that's still your position, is it? Thank you, Your Excellency.
Counsel for the defense, you will now clearly show to the court what you are alluding. What precisely on this plate of beefsteak is Where precisely on this plate of beefsteak is this new clue to be found?
Oh my gosh, I have to click through. I have to click through so many details here. Come on. Why isn't there a fast option for text?
Got it!
Good gracious, that's...
Koban? What on earth? Ahoy, everyone. Miss Brett. This is, in fact, the beefsteak that you ordered at the restaurant on the day in question, is it? Tell me. Why is there an old coin seemingly hidden underneath the meat? What a ridiculous question. How should I know? I've never seen that thing before in my life. I don't know what this is, but I want no part of it. I fail to see how this is relevant, a coin under the meat. That could simply have been a careless mistake by the chef in a moment of distraction. It's a gold coin.
Objection!
It's an antique gold coin. Don't be absurd. We're supposed to believe that this happened by accident in the kitchen. A rare Hoei Koban just happens to be hidden underneath that piece of steak. If this turns out to be irrelevant to the case, I'll rip up my ticket to Great Britain right now. He's right, it can't be a coincidence. Your Excellency.
Yes, Counsel?
A rare Hoei Koban just happens to be hidden underneath that piece of steak. If this turns out to be irrelevant to the case, I'll give up my lawyer job right now. Are you... By all means, don't let us stop you. No one invited you anyway. Yeah, are you even technically... Is this your job? I don't think it is. Perhaps, little boy, you should realize that it is you who is irrelevant. Even though I'm the one on trial here? The point is, it's essential that we ask the owner of this coin if he can explain what it's doing under that steak.
The owner?
Yes, it's obvious there's only one person it can belong to. The owner of the Koban that was found underneath the beef steak is... the antiquities dealer. Obviously, it can only be the antique dealer and owner of Rasute, Koryo Kurekuta-san. Kyori, as in Mr. Cucumber something. Honestly, these ridiculous Japanese names are quite unfathomable. I mean, your name is Giselle. You're not really one to talk here. At least I'm named after a Pokemon. Ah, yes. The old man who testified earlier alongside the military sergeant. Yes, Your Excellency. I remember him saying that he was up to something with his Koban coin when it happened, at the exact moment the gun was fired. The gunshot interested me not. I was far too busy on the floor. Too busy on the floor? Sorry, what were you doing? Hunting for treasure. Indeed, the Hoei-era Koban. My prized coin. And this Hoei-era Koban, do you mean to tell me... No, please, why would Kurekuta-san's Koban be sandwiched between the victim's beefsteak and its plate? It makes no sense. Which is why I'm asking to bring Kurekuta-san back to the witness stand so we can ask him. Wait, what the heck? So, you all know how I went over there a little while earlier in the stream to turn on the fan? Well, apparently my brain got crossed wires, because not only did I not turn on the fan at the time, that I've just now realized, but I also managed to switch my air conditioner from cool to heat. So, not only have I not been getting the breeze from the fan, I haven't been getting any cold air coming out of my vents either. So that's going well. Anyway, how did he know that was there? I'm sorry if I missed your question a bit earlier, B, but I think it was just from looking. We looked at the plate and found it. We didn't know that was there.
Officer, bring both witnesses that testified earlier back in here. Without a moment's delay.
I can't believe we've come back round to that pair again. But I have a hunch, a strong hunch, that if we chase down the real significance of this Koban, we'll find that it's a key element in the case.
What is this all about? Why have I been called up again?
Don't you realize that it's dinner time now for little baby Idonosa?
When my son's belly is empty, he's fiercer than a pack of wolves.
Exploited by the police, we were like miserable dogs forced to bear false witness, and when cast from this courtroom myself, I became a ruined man in a trice, a worthless, withered antique. Nothing more have I to say. The sun has set on this Rasute shop owner's existence.
Be that as it may, Kurekuta-san, something has come to light that requires your clarification. As far as your Rasute memory serves, have you ever seen this Koban bit?
That's it. The very one. The very exact one that is. The resplendent, splendiferous holy treasure that my rusty bones managed to misplace that fateful day. So yeah, the sergeant stole the koban and hid it under his stake in an attempt to sneak it away from the man. And then when the lady had committed the murder and saw the blood on the plate, she swapped her plate with the one from the other table. As I thought. Young man, enlighten this decrepit old fool, put me out of my misery. Where was my treasure? Where was it dropped? Oh, I'm not sure if it was dropped anywhere. We found your coin sandwiched between a beef steak and its plate, soaking in the seasoned meat's juices. Sandwiched? Soaking? Seriously? Clearly, it couldn't have fallen there by accident, which means somebody must have hidden it there on purpose. Somebody concealed my holy treasure between a slab of meat and a metal plate? Who would do such a thing? Such an unconscionable thing? Excuse me. Could I say something? Yes, of course. Proceed, indeed, Inspector Hosonaga. I mentioned this earlier in the trial, but I was working undercover in the restaurant in order to investigate another case. Ah, yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. The secret undercover operation. La Carnival is a high-class Western cuisine restaurant. It attracts wealthy diners, including many foreigners. Recently, there's been a run of similarly executed thefts targeting the restaurant's rich clientele. A number of such incidents have been reported to the police bureau.
Wicked crimes indeed.
We wanted to nip the case in the bud quickly, especially with so many foreigners being affected. So that's why you were sent in undercover, is it? Yes. I took the job of waiter at the restaurant in order to flush out the criminal. It seems likely that this koban incident is the work of the same thief. So unbeknownst to us, there was a master thief at work in the restaurant on a regular basis. The place was already the scene of several crimes, it seems. I don't know about the master thief part, but the identity of the person who stole and hid Korikuta-san's koban is all too clear. What? What?
I think the court would like to hear the defense's view on this matter. Tell us, who is the despicable scoundrel that stole Korikuta-san's koban and hid it under the steak?
Yeah, this one isn't even hard.
Obviously, it can only be you, Judge.
Sergeant Yasunosa. What? How? How dare you, you monster. Monster? I stole that koban, did I? I'm the master thief of La Carnival, am I? You're seriously accusing me of these crimes, cadet? But it wasn't me, it was Ido. Ido is the mastermind behind all this. He does have the face of a thief. And a killer. He's probably committed murder at least once. Maybe twice. You would push the blame for your crimes onto your own son, an innocent little baby? It's you who's the monster, Sergeant Nosa. The child has sticky fingers. That's what we're getting at. Oh my, that was a clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clop. Nippon Imperial Army, Sergeant Yasunosa, preparing to stand down in the Supreme Court, sir. Oh, his mustache got all jagged. I do like the animations. Do any of you know of the extraordinary low wages the Nippon Imperial Army pays those it expects to keep our country safe?
I understand that the temporary increase in taxation owing to the recently ended conflicts remains in place. And I have heard it's hard for lower-ranking soldiers to make a living, yes?
All I want is to put a hot meal on the table for my son. That's why you were stealing things at the restaurant? The place is heaving with money. Every 3 days I'd go there and do reconnaissance for a target. And I'd enjoy chomping my way through a good steak at the same time. Sounds like he doesn't bother with a knife and fork even, which is worryingly believable. And your target that day was the old man and his koban? Yes, sir. He was an easy mark. I slipped the coin into my pocket without any trouble at all. A veritable phantom thief you are. I was all set to leave the steak I was halfway through devouring when it happened. Bang. Yes, when the professor was shot, I knew that if the police conducted a search and found the coin in my pocket, I'd be finished. I'd owe too. So I hid the incriminating evidence as fast as I could, on the double. I slipped it under the steak, hoping that I'd be able to rendezvous with it again at a later date. This is ridiculous. Perhaps you could carry on with this absurd prattling in your own time. Well, Miss Brett. Oh, of course, dear lady, of course. How rude of us. I'm quite sure there's no need to detain you any longer at all. May the esteemed gentlewoman please be excused, Your Excellency.
Indeed. The theft of the koban was clearly perpetrated by this baby-saddled sergeant. It would certainly appear to be unrelated to Dr. Wilson's murder.
Now that is true. But... hang on. I thought I might be going a bit blurry there. Of course it is. Hiding a coin under a lump of meat, the sheer nonsense of such an idea astounds me. Nonsense, is it?
Well...
And as for picking up your steak and biting into it without using a knife and fork, it's beyond nonsense, it's pure madness.
Very well, now that all questions concerning this witness's testimony have been answered, I see no further justification for detaining her. Miss Brett, you are free to leave.
Objection? Thank you, Your Excellency. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to drop a save. It's been a minute. I just like doing that often in case I feel the urge to load a save. And good day. And good day. Ryu, what's the matter with you? This is no time for daydreaming. Oh, no, it's just... it's something about Miss Brett's parting words there got me thinking. I can't work out what exactly, but something she said jarred with me. I feel like there was a contradiction in there somewhere. Something didn't quite add up. If that's the case, don't just stand there thinking, make your voice heard. Sorry? You can think later, but if you don't call out now, it'll be too late. The trial will be over. Yeah, I feel like this should be obvious to him by now. Wait, Miss Brett. What Is it now? I'm afraid, just one last time, there's something I'd like to ask you. I'd like you to explain the contradiction in your parting words from just a few moments ago. What are you talking about? What contradiction? What new student nonsense is this? Well, what parting words are you talking about, Ryunosuke? So, hang on, I'm not actually sure what he's talking about. Let's back up. Hiding a coin under a lump of meat. I don't think it's that. I think it's this. As for picking up your steak and biting into it without using a knife and fork, it's beyond nonsense. It's pure madness. Oh, hiding a coin under a lump of meat. The sheer nonsense of such an idea astounds me. And as for picking up your steak and biting into it without using a knife and fork, it's beyond nonsense. It's pure madness. Yes, I'm right. What she said there exposed an undeniable contradiction.
I'm going to need to see evidence, Counsel. If Miss Brett's words truly are contradictory, where is the evidence to prove it?
See, I have a feeling it's supposed to be the crime scene photograph. I'm not totally certain what evidence they're getting at, but I'm just gonna drop the save before I respond. I think the point that we're going to show here is that she did in fact have a knife and fork. But the alternative is that the nonsense of the coin being hidden under the meat is inarguable. With that said, I'm going with this one.
Take that!
Photographic print of the scene taken immediately after the incident occurred.
What's interesting is the plate of steak you can see on the victim's table.
Steak that Miss Brett had been eating before the professor was killed. Yes, go on.
More accurately, Your Excellency, the steak that was on the victim's table just before the professor was killed. Now you're splitting hairs. Not true. Doesn't something about the steak strike you as very unnatural? Unnatural? What on earth do you mean? It's extremely obvious. I'm talking about the shape of the edge where it's been eaten. I see you've noticed it too, Miss Brett.
Notice what exactly, Counsel?
Just a few moments ago, Miss Brett claimed no Englishman could even contemplate picking up a steak and biting into it without using a knife and fork. Of course she did. She's a refined English gentlewoman herself. Well, thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. Welcome to the stream. We're discussing the bite marks on a steak. Then take a good look at the steak, in particular the edge where it's been eaten. As you can see, there are clearly defined barbaric teeth marks there. Ah! Oh! Oh! It looks like Miss Brett has realized something. If the witness, as she claims, wouldn't contemplate eating anything without using a knife and fork, there shouldn't be teeth marks on the steak at all. But what is your actual point? Perhaps the delightful Miss Brett was ravenously hungry at the time. Ravenously hungry and couldn't help herself. Ah! Oh, whatever you say, dear lady. As I said, I really must be leaving now. Afternoon tea with the Minister of Justice cannot possibly wait any longer. Of course, this will all be over in the blink of an eye, rest assured. I'm about to put this rookie in his place. I've heard enough, Just leave everything to... I've heard enough, you irritating little spectacled samurai relic. Oh, of course, dear lady. What's the matter? What's the matter, Miss Brett? Have we ruffled your feathers? Clearly, the witness knows what this means. She's realized the catastrophic implications in these teeth marks in the stake have for her. Ryunosuke, do you know where you're going with this? It's not her stake. Like, I don't feel like we needed to go that far out of the way. The dude hid the coin under his stake, which means this is his stake, because it's where the coin was found. Yes, now at last it's all come together. The mysterious teeth marks in the stake that had allegedly been eaten with cutlery. The reason why the bloodstain I know I saw somehow seems to have disappeared. And most importantly, the evidence that proves once and for all who shot Dr. Wilson that day. I accept that these teeth marks in the stake are a little unnatural, as you put it, Counsel. But what exactly are you suggesting that tells us? Everything, Your Excellency. Everything? Yes, I believe that these barbaric teeth marks in the stake here amount to conclusive evidence in this case. Evidence that will prove beyond any doubt who shot Dr. Wilson. Conclusive evidence? How many times have I heard that today? You wouldn't know the meaning of the phrase, typical Japanese empty threats. How can you be so sure? Oh, it's quite simple. If you really had such conclusive evidence, you would have presented it to the court long ago. Actually, the evidence I'm talking about hasn't been brought before the court yet. Hasn't been? What? But just because it hasn't been shown yet, doesn't mean that the evidence does not exist. This is absurd. The trial has run several hours already, and you say there's evidence yet to be brought forward? There can't be. I don't believe you had it.
Objection.
I don't have it. But there is someone who does have it. Someone in this very courtroom. If that person is willing to submit the piece of evidence I'm referring to, we'll solve every remaining mystery about this case. So it's either the detective who took the plates from the other table, or the sergeant who went back and retrieved his plate, which was actually What's-Her-Face's plate.
Very well. I have a feeling this will be my last request of the defense in this trial. Who possesses the conclusive evidence that will reveal the truth about this whole affair?
I am going to say I think it's the sergeant, but in case I'm wrong. Obviously, I could totally take the hit to my points, but I like seeing all of them up there.
Take that!
Counts. Oh, okay, well, I guess it is the detective. The answer is obvious. It's Inspector Hosonaga. What? I have it. Yes. You think I've been withholding conclusive evidence? That's ridiculous. No, no, no. I'm not saying that. Everyone's attention has been focused on the steak with the teeth marks.
Yes.
Now, earlier this afternoon, Sergeant Nosa told the court the following. I'd enjoy chomping my way through a good steak. As well as admitting to stealing Korakuta-san's coin, he told us he'd slipped it under the steak. You watch it, cadet. I'm a superior officer. Sergeant Nosa, could you please confirm something for me? Was the steak that you put the coin under, in fact, your own steak?
Attention.
Affirmative, of course. I might be a soldier in the Imperial Army, but still. I'm not brave enough to ask a foreign gentle lady if she'd mind me manhandling her meal to hide something in it. In other words, the steak that the detective submitted as evidence earlier was in fact Sergeant Nosa's meal.
Objection!
That makes no sense. That plate was taken from the victim's table.
Objection!
Yet the gentlewoman doesn't take bites out of her steak, nor did she have any opportunity to steal the coin. Of course I didn't steal it. To even suggest such a thing would be an affront to the entire British Empire.
Well then, how do you explain this paradox?
Exactly. Surely you're not going to suggest that the sergeant switched the two steaks over. No, he didn't. You did switch the plates?
Well, after it happened, when I saw the civilian had been murdered right in front of my eyes like that, I panicked. As I said, I immediately lifted my steak and hid the coin underneath it. But then when the waiter announced he was an undercover policeman, I thought I'd had it. If he decided to investigate my slab of meat, that'd be it. I'd be getting my marching orders. So when the cadet here was arrested and taken off to the kitchen, I seized my chance.
I'm sorry, why would he be the one to switch it? Why wouldn't it be her?
With my military precision and timing, I switched my steak with the one on the foreign lady's table.
What? You can't have. I never saw you do such a thing.
It was called Operation Lightning Bolt. There was no time for strategic planning. It was do or die, I tell you. So yes, I did what had to be done.
Unbelievable!
However, fear not, prosecutor-san.
What now?
I swear on the brass buttons of my uniform, that is all I did, sir.
All you did? That's plenty, Sergeant. Yeah, hide the baby. Probably for the best. So if Sergeant Nosa switched the plates over, it means he took Miss Brett's steak and the plate it was on back to his own table.
Yes, that follows.
Inspector Hosonaga. Yes? Earlier in this trial, you said that you had not only taken Miss Brett's steak at the incident, but also the sergeant's. That to preserve evidence, you had taken both. That's correct. And he didn't notice the blood on the sergeant's plate. Like, for someone obsessed with preserving evidence, he doesn't look at the evidence at all. Then please, present it to the court now. Plate that was actually on the victim's table at the precise moment he was shot. What can that possibly tell us now? I mean, a cold slab of tough meat, it can't have the slightest bearing on the case. No, you're not wriggling your way out of it this time, lady. I beg your pardon? Surely you're not that forgetful. Surely you remember the reason why the steak pen promises to prove such a problem for you, no? You're the ones who decided it was a problem, not me. The reason the defense asked to see that plate was to confirm something the defendant remembers seeing. thinks he remembers. I'm quite sure of what I saw, Miss Brett. On the side of the plate that was directly on the table directly behind Dr. Wilson, there was a clear spattering of blood from the gunshot wound to the victim's chest. I believe the defendant's memory serves him well. And now that we have the evidence to prove it, the plate you were eating from, Miss Brett. Now we have the evidence to prove it.
Let us not prolong this any further. Inspector, you will show the evidence to the court. Present the beefsteak and plate that was originally on the victim's table at the time of the incident.
Yes, sir. Okay, but you should still be arrested for concealing, and your higher-ups for concealing a witness. Anyway, sorry for keeping you. Here's the other steak and its plate. Please feel free to examine it. The bloodstain is clearly visible.
Yes!
Look, and you didn't think this was relevant. Now this makes everything clear. The blood you can see on the side of the plate shows that at the moment the victim was shot, he was facing the table with his back to me. In other words, it's impossible for Naruhodo-san to have shot the victim. It can't be! In fact, there's only one person who could possibly have shot Dr. Wilson from the front. I'm sure everyone knows by now who that person is. That's right. Miss Giselle Brett. It's you. So is it just straight up a live swan on her head? And also, are we not going to address the issue of how she would have managed to get a gun out of there? I mean, I think we could just hypothetically accept that she was able to sneak it out under her dress, since no one searched her person thoroughly. But, like, I feel like it has to be addressed. Otherwise, it's Grossberg at the boathouse all over again. Outdone by a Japanese. Me. By a Japanese schoolboy. No, no, no! Okay, so that is just straight up a live goose. I'm so intensely confused right now. Please excuse my little outburst. I briefly lost my composure. Most unbecoming behavior for an English gentlewoman. Forgive me.
Well, Miss Brett, I think it's time you told the court what actually happened that day. The truth this time.
Gladly, Your Excellency. It was I who took the professor's life using Curaire. As you surmised, I chose that particular day for one very important reason. The professor had a dental appointment for the extraction of one of his teeth in the morning. So you planned to kill the professor, knowing that no trace of poison would be found in his water, because Curaire is unheard of here in Japan. Yes, of course I never intended to remain at the restaurant for as long as I did. I only needed to see the professor take one tiny sip of his water and it would all be over. I would place the steak that I had ordered in front of him to make it appear as though he had been dining alone, and leave immediately. However, before any of that happened, there was an unexpected visitor at the professor's table. That would be me, I suppose. Yes, you. Who else? Such a trifling matter, but the fact that you decided to come over and greet the professor meant that I had lost my chance to slip away unnoticed. In due course, the professor took a sip of his water and was paralyzed. I made sure he was sitting in his chair such that he wouldn't fall. There was no going back at that point, so I concocted a plan on the spur of the moment. A plan to pin Dr. Wilson's murder on this innocent man. I happened to know that the professor always carried a gun. I decided to use that fact to my advantage. I had the bottle of Curare in my handbag, and my own pistol concealed under my skirt. Well, now that we know that it's an actual goose on her head, obviously it can't have been in her hat. I was wrong on that part. Under your skirt? So I was right, there were two guns. Yes. And then I finished my coffee and got up to leave. That's when I noticed the professor's gun, which you had presumably placed on the floor. Place where you were sure that I would notice it. And everything went according to plan. You noticed the gun as I'd intended. We haven't even established her motive, which kind of messes with this whole thing. And then, just as you bent down to pick it up, that's when you shot the professor with your own gun. Even though at that point he was already dead. Naturally, the gunshot caused a commotion, at which point the waiter appeared. Obviously, I assumed Naruhodo-san was the culprit and apprehended him. I took him to the pantry that adjoins the kitchen and locked him inside. That's when I took the opportunity to turn the professor and his chair around. Because, of course, you needed to make it look like the defendant had shot Dr. Wilson from where he'd picked up the gun. So there you have it. That is the entirety of my misdemeanor. It's a felony. Pretty sure. Pretty sure murder is a felony. Your Excellency?
Yes?
I wonder. Might I speak with you in private later?
I shall call on you.
Thank you. Good day then, everyone. I hope you can forgive me, Naruhodo-san.
It would seem this trial has finally run its course. I presume the prosecution is in agreement?
This can't be. Takasuchi Ouchi does not lose. Not to the likes of this rookie student. You better start getting used to tough opposition. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? This is an insult to the Ouchi family name. This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten. You've become conceited with age, Council, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that. Dude, seriously, put the sword away. You are in a courtroom. A thousand millennia may pass and still, the Aochi clan will never measure up to the Naruhodo clan.
This trial in the Supreme Court of Japan will, I believe, go down in history as the start of a new chapter in our country's judicial system. Despite being summoned as the accused, you, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, presented an excellent case.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I really didn't. I kind of just bumbled my way through it, and, well, frankly, I got lucky, and you were very understanding, sir.
The use of evidence and deduction to unravel the truth is a modern methodology. After all, it has only been a few short decades since our country opened its doors to the wider world, where the Western ideas of science are rapidly gaining acceptance here. I feel sure that science will soon bring new methods of investigation and new procedures of justice. A new future of law awaits, but what will it look like, I cannot begin to imagine.
See, I imagine that there are definitely some accuracies here, but I can't imagine the entire country of Japan being this self-deprecating. So, yeah.
That is for the young to pursue. Kazuma Asogi.
Yes?
After this trial, you are set to embark on a journey of discovery to the illustrious British Empire. Learn all you can. Absorb everything of the wider world that you are able to. And do not forget to fulfill the mission imposed upon you.
I understand, Your Excellency. What was that about? Why do you look so grave all of a sudden? He's being sent there to kill the queen, or the king, one of the two. Obviously, I don't know which they're leading with at the time. I had assumed the king, to be honest. Ah, never mind.
As for you, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Oh, yes?
In you, I sense, how can I put it, unusual potential. I very much look forward to seeing how you carry that onwards.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
It's time to deliver the final verdict. I hereby the defendant, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Okay, but like, there was a much simpler explanation. If they had just said, yeah, the poison was just in the professor's drink. She slipped it into his glass while... before they cheersed. That would have been so much simpler.
This court is now adjourned.
22nd November, 2:46 p.m., Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants, Antechamber 5. I can't believe it. I can't believe what's happened. I made it. I defended myself and made it through that horrendous trial. Ryunosuke, you finally pulled it off. Congratulations. Well, I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you, Kazuma. No, it was a pleasure to watch you at work. So, you owed me an extra large sukiyaki from the place on Yume You owe me an extra large sukiyaki from the place on Yume University Street. Don't forget. Good afternoon. All your hard work has certainly paid off. Oh, it's her. Congratulations to both of you for proving Naruhodo-san's innocence. Is it just... Hang on, I guess y'all can't really see her that well with where my picture is. Just putting that right there. Is it just me or are her eyes kind of lifeless? Like, she just has such a plastic expression. She has the least expressive face of anyone in this show so far. By like a long shot. Or in this game so far. Ah, our trusty judicial assistant. You worked hard for that result, you know? Too, you know? Oh no, I didn't do any... Thank you so much. If we hadn't had that research report of Miss Brett's, I don't know how things would have turned out. Yes, you do. You would have been sentenced to death. Your kind words should really be for my father. I was simply doing as he asked. It was his idea for me to go to the university and investigate. Your father? Ah, yes, of course. Mikotoba. Susato Mikotoba. Speaking of Mikotoba...
Ah, there you are. I believe congratulations are in order. Naruhodo, you did an excellent job.
Thank you, Professor.
Oh no, it is I who should be thanking you. After all, your efforts exposed the true criminal that took the life of my good friend.
Good friend? Oh yes, you mentioned that before. It was you who actually invited Dr. Wilson to Yume University, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Professor Mikotoba studied overseas himself. He went to study forensic medicine in Great Britain. Presumably, that's when you met Dr. Wilson?
Exactly. In those days, we worked together in the same hospital.
Oh, you work together? Never heard you mention that before.
Well, it was a long time ago now. Besides, it's your turn, Asogi. Great Britain is a magnificent country. It leads the world. In science, medicine, engineering, culture, and of course, in law. Watch and learn, my boy. See what's happening in the world's largest melting pot.
I'll learn all that I can. I swear on this, the spirit of the Asogi clan. You're not taking that sword to Great Britain, are you? Of course I am. A Japanese man's katana is his soul. This blade shows me where I need to go. And cuts down anything that's in my way. Yeah, that thing's going to be a murder weapon in a later case. Yes, I've definitely seen how sharp it is already with my own eyes. That reminds me, what's happened to the woman? To Giselle Brett, I mean. After all, she's guilty of murder.
Ah yes, her. It's not easy to tell you this, but...
Yeah, she totally got off scot-free and is being deported. Surely she's going to face trial herself now. She's the true culprit, after all.
She will be leaving Japan in the very near future, for Shanghai.
What? Shanghai?
Giselle Brett will not appear in court again in this country. I'm certain of that.
But why not? It's a matter of consular jurisdiction. Inspector Hosonaga? It was a hard-fought battle in the courtroom today. Very impressive to watch. I must congratulate... Well, what's this about consular jurisdiction? We cannot try this particular foreigner for her crimes here in Japan. What? We can't try her? Well then who? Who's going to bring her to justice? A British consular court will hear her case, somewhere far away where our voices can't be heard. But why a consular court? Professor, I simply don't understand. I thought consular courts were a thing of the past now that we've signed the Friendship Treaty. Yes, in normal circumstances, you're right. And so long as this is not a serious incident of a highly political nature to our respective governments, they can't invoke a consular court just like that. Oh, can't they? Yes, she's a student, but it doesn't justify our governments making secret agreements about her fate, does it? Something strange is going on. So Miss Brett can't be held accountable for her actions here in Japan. I'm afraid that for the young student, today's trial was nothing more than a game all along. There was never any danger of comeuppance for her. I don't believe it. The British government's Foreign Affairs Ministry has demanded that we hand over custody of Miss Brett. They're obviously taking this case of a foreign student committing murder very seriously. I really doubt that.
It's all going to change from now on. We can make it change. This is a time of great turmoil. This new era heralded by the start of the 20th century. One day, I have no doubt, that woman will receive the judgment she deserves.
Yes, change is coming, and we're the ones driving it.
Well, I think that's enough seriousness for now. This evening calls for a celebratory drink.
But Professor... You're right, this is no time for gloomy faces. We should be celebrating Ryunosuke's not guilty verdict. Let's start having some fun. In that case, might I suggest La Carnival? As the head waiter, I should be delighted to provide you with ample food and drink. You're a detective, Hosonaga-san, aren't you? He's been fired, hasn't he? Let's not worry about details for now. To La Carnival, will you accompany us, Professor?
Of course. La Carnival's food is second to none.
I shall go attend to the paperwork for Naruhodo-san's release. Oh yes, thank you. So Giselle Brett won't be tried here. I suppose that means I'll never know. I'll never find out why she killed Dr. Wilson. Kazuma. Yes, Ryunosuke? Just wanted to say thanks again, that's all. You really saved my skin today. I didn't do a thing. You were the lawyer in there, weren't you? The defense was all your own work. Your skills made the difference, though. One day, I bet you'll be the best lawyer in the world. I'm not so sure about that. To be honest, something kept occurring to me over and over during that trial. I couldn't help thinking that maybe you're the one destined to become a great lawyer, not me. What? Come on, be serious. If I helped you today, it was only right at the very start of the trial. But you have a natural talent for it, for being a defense lawyer, I mean. Oh no, not me. All that tense verbal combat? I never want to go through that again. I did what you told me to do, that's all. Because I knew I could trust you. That's the point. Sorry? What do you mean, that's the point? Listen, Ryunosuke. Do you know what the most crucial weapon is that any lawyer needs in order to win? Knowledge of the law? No. The ability to believe. To believe? To believe what? A defense lawyer has to fight for his clients. He has to believe in them at all times. Like you believed in me when I said I didn't do it. I'm human just like you. I don't have some superhuman ability to know the truth. But you have to make a choice about what to believe and stick to it when you're defending someone. Sometimes in the courtroom, you can really be backed into a corner. But being able to remain faithful to what you choose to believe in, even then, that's not something anyone can do. It takes a special kind of person. Believing in your client. Just look at today's trial. I'm a student lawyer with precious little real experience, but you never stopped believing in me. Well, you face seemingly hopeless situations time and time again, but you never stopped looking for the truth. And in the end, you found it, through your own efforts and because you never stopped believing in me. Thanks, Kazuma. There's something I want to ask you, actually, Ryunosuke. Well, it's a favor, really. Something very important to me. Sounds serious. What is... Oh, you're still here, are you? Oh, Inspector Hosonaga. We've arranged some rickshaws for us. Let's go. Thank you. We'll be right there. Let's pick up this conversation again later. You should be celebrating right now your first court victory. And your study tour to Great Britain, don't forget. Ah, yes, that too. So my very first trial came to an end. Kazuma, Professor Mikotoba, Sasuto-san, who acted as my assistant, Inspector Hosonaga, who didn't really play much of a part, but still. It's because of the help and support of all these people that I managed to get through that trial. But more importantly, Kazuma hadn't yet managed to ask his favor of me. Little did I realize just how much it would change my life. And defense debut. Got an achievement for finishing episode 1. Sorry, I just like scrolling through things sometimes. So the episodes are The Adventure of the Great Departure, The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band, The Adventure of the Runaway Room, The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro, The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band.
Of that small, dark room, Sholmes and I waited with bated breath. In time, there came from the ventilator a hiss and a soft, almost growl-like sound. Suddenly, Sholmes sprang into action, lashing furiously with his cane at a point in the darkness. You see it, Wilson? He yelled, his tense voice reverberating through the air. I raised my dark lantern shutter, and the room slowly came into view. Sholmes was staring intently at one particular corner when he started whispering to me. The victim's most perplexing final words. The speckled band. I believe this is the terrible coil to which you referred, Wilson. In front of us was an enormous adder, its fangs bared as it threatened to strike. It truly was the most terrible speckled band I had ever seen.
Sorry, I'm just trying to remind myself what an adder actually looks like.
So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder. Pray, do excuse me. The cabin door was bolted from the inside when the man was killed. No marks to suggest the bolt was tampered with in any way. So, this would appear to be a locked room mystery. In his final moments, the victim scrawled a message on the floor. Almost certainly with the ink from this upset bottle. A Russian word. So the victim was a Russian man then. And the letters are well formed, suggesting he was compos mentis at the time. This is a most extraordinary script. And evidently not penned by the same hand as this message. In fact, I deduce it was written by someone of a different nationality. This paper seal was placed just prior to the incident, by the victim himself, I would venture. Well, what have we here?
Who are you, and what do you think you're doing here?
No one must touch before maritime police come. We must wait.
Shh. That won't be necessary. You see, in less than 5 seconds from now, I will reveal the killer to you.
What? Don't be absurd. This
That guy.
is murder. I need cabin locked from inside.
Ah yes, the locked room. But that mystery is paper thin.
You don't mean the culprit is in there?
Who are you, and where have you come from?
Is that
I'm a great
Osnaga?
British consultant detective, the only one in the world. Sherlock Holmes. I presume you must have heard of me.
My head is throbbing. What's going on? Something's not right here. There's trouble in the air. Wait. I can't move. Ah, what the? Why am I in handcuffs? So, you wake up now,
We had to drag you out of the wardrobe. I do not believe how you could not wake up. You are a true cold-blooded man.
You found me then.
We found you, and now you pay. Criminal. How long are you hiding in that tiny wardrobe,
Sorry.
Now you have been found. It is time to admit your crimes. Unless you want to find out how cold the ocean is,
My Russian accent is not great, and I apologize. No, I'll tell you everything. There's only one thing I'd like to know from you. Isn't that... Why did you do it? Why did you take his life? Miss Susato. Wait, what did you just say? Take his life? Where is he? Where's Kazuma? Oh, he's dead, isn't he?
Ah, you pretend you do not know. You are wolf in sheep's belt. You are the killer. Do not try to make excuses.
What? Kazuma-sama's body was discovered not long ago. Here, in this very cabin. That was bolted shut from the inside. His body? Yeah, this is unsurprising.
Please, do not try to tell us you are doing this terrible thing in your sleep.
Kazuma's dead? But he can't be. And these handcuffs, surely you don't think I have to know. Why did you take Kazuma-sama's life? Thank you for the hydrate, last one. Answer me, please. No. No! Why am I not especially surprised that he died? We're probably going to get to see what he was going to ask us in a flashback at some point. Kazuma. It's just 2 short weeks ago. Are you sure about this? Will we get in trouble? Don't you find it fun being a stowaway? Besides, how else could you come to England with me to study? It was really something else when they brought your luggage in here. Earlier, though. The way that Russian crewman just tossed your traveling case onto the floor, I thought I was gonna die. Yes, I still can't quite believe that. I really didn't think you'd be able to fit inside my trunk. You must be even less of... Dude, that is just rude. Hey, honestly, I thought I'd broken every bone in my body. Well, it's about 50 days until we dock in Great Britain. But if you confine yourself to my cabin here, I don't expect anyone will discover you. I hope not. I get the feeling those Russians wouldn't be very forgiving of a stowaway. They're a sturdy bunch, that's for sure. What I want to know is, why do we need to keep it a secret from the young lady? From our faithful judicial assistant Mikotoba, you mean? From your close friend, more to the point. Surely we could confide in her, couldn't we? I don't believe she'd give me away. No, but if she knew what we'd done, that would make her guilty by association. It's best that only you and I know about this. I suppose so. Anyway, it's about time that the steward is supposed to come and clean the cabin. I know it's cramped, but you better get in there, I think. It won't be for long. Anyway, compared to hiding inside my traveling case, it'll be a breeze. Yes, but what if the steward decides to open the wardrobe for some reason? Then I'll be in for it. Stop worrying. I'll tell you what. Why don't you write keep out or something on this piece of paper? What? Then I can stick it over the wardrobe doors once you're inside. I don't know. Like, there's already a gaping hole in this case. How would he know? Why would he write something in Russian as he was dying? Only been at sea for about 15 days. How can this have happened? We were supposed to be going on this adventure to England together.
We'll leave you at next port. Stay quiet until then. Don't make trouble for yourself. Murderer. Murderer.
No, I'm not a murderer.
Bah, you said before. You said you admit everything about your crimes.
No, that's not right. I mean, yes, I did stow away on the ship, but Murdering my best friend?
No one else could have done it. Admit the truth.
Susato-san. Please, tell me what happened. I need to know. Very well. There's something I would like to ask of you, too. Those eyes, she looks like she's ready to destroy me. This nightmare is getting worse by the minute. I suppose all I can do is try to find out what really happened. Oh, we're finally into an investigation section. It's kind of funny. We didn't have one of those in the... I guess they never really do have one of those in the intro case. Kazuma's death. He really has been killed, hasn't he? This isn't just a bad dream? What's in the court record? Paper seal. Remnants of the glue. Some proper glue, of course. Pulverize some rice into a paste to use instead. But to a stowaway like me, every grain of rice represents precious rations. That's why I spread it as thinly as I possibly could. I couldn't bear to waste any. This is the paper seal I wrote for the wardrobe. I remember working really working hard to make it. But I'll never forget how Kazuma reacted. Do you expect the Russian crew to be able to read that? He said. Still, I was sure people would get the idea even if they couldn't read it. So we used it anyway. And it worked. I don't know if the crew thought it was creepy or what, but no one opened the doors. Okay, this isn't different from the last time. And it's still our same badge. Number 901. It's so sad, though. I liked Kazuma. I was hoping that I was wrong about him being murdered soon. And these handcuffs, they think I did it? They think I'm Kazuma's killer. When they found him, the cabin was locked from the inside. What do you mean? There's no access to the cabin via a porthole window, and the bolt on the door can't be operated from the outside. In other words, after the crime, the culprit couldn't have escaped these four walls. Alright, so, shooting wild right now, because I don't really have any evidence, but I've got to guess. I would say that they forced the lock to get in, and then when they went out, they just closed the door. So the lock was already forced, and then when they made their way into the room again, they pretended to force the lock. What? Or to put it another way, the culprit can only have been somebody inside this cabin. Or do you have some other explanation? Well, I do, but Ryu doesn't. This is impossible. How did he die then? What happened exactly? Are you still going to deny the charge, even despite the circumstances? Please, Susato-san, you have to tell me. The cause of death is still undetermined. They don't know how he died. Oh, I suppose it could have been poison. Like a poison gas or something, perhaps. There is, now that I think about it, if you look at the top left, there's a very obvious vent there. They don't know how he died? The ship's doctor is examining the body, but of course he has no post-mortem analysis experience. I don't suppose we shall learn more until an expert has been consulted at our next port of call. So presumably that means there were no obvious external signs of injury then? That's true, yes. Can't anyone tell me what actually happened here in this cabin? I don't understand it. Why would anyone want to kill Kazuma? Presumably... Oh my gosh, what was that mouth movement? Presumably that's something you would know the answer to better than anyone. Please. Whatever you say, you were here in the cabin after all. Yes, I was, but... He would always wake before dawn and do his training first thing in the morning. I was waiting outside his cabin, as I have every day so far on this voyage. But this morning he did not come. I could sense that he wouldn't. Does that mean he was already dead when Susato-san arrived at his cabin door, I wonder? I knocked, but there was no reply. And I started to become worried, so I went to find a member of the crew. Crewman forced the cabin door open, and when we managed to get inside, there was Kazuma-sama, collapsed on the floor. And the white tape there now shows exactly where he was found, I suppose. I had no idea anything had happened. Must have been asleep in the wardrobe somehow. I wish it wasn't the case, but it's just very hard to believe. It's all very hard to believe for me too, trust me. Now I've told you everything that I know, so it's my turn to ask you a question. Yes, alright. My head feels so heavy, it's still throbbing like anything. Oh, I can't examine the scene yet. I want to examine the scene, and that's one of my favorite parts. Why are you even on board this ship, Naruhodo-san? You said something before about being a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, yes, I'm afraid that's true. It's 2 weeks since we left Japan now, and I've been shut up in the cabin this entire time. I had no idea, but how could you have occupied Kazuma-sama's cabin for so long without him noticing? No, that would have been impossible, obviously. Yes, of course. Kazuma invited me. He wanted us to go to England together. He actually asked you? But why? I'm afraid I don't really know the reason myself. I don't understand. Kazuma, why do you want this? What's the real reason? Why go to such extreme lengths to smuggle me to England with you? It's an idea that's been on my mind ever since the end of that incredible trial. I think I told you then, didn't I, that you ought to become a lawyer yourself? Well, yes, you did say that, but I didn't think you were serious. You have a talent for it, I can assure you of that. I've never really thought about becoming a lawyer. Well, that's something you can decide for yourself. London is at the spearhead of cultural development, the center of the world in many ways. There can't be any harm in seeing such an important place with your own eyes, can there? Well, no, definitely not. But on a personal level, if you were to become a lawyer, then what? Nothing. Forget it. Kazuma-sama he was always saying the same thing, that he wanted to change the Japanese legal system. Perhaps he thought that he could do that with you. Yes, maybe. But something's still bothering me a little. Look in his eyes then. It was darker than I've ever seen it before. Susato-san? I'm sorry that we kept it a secret from you. My stowing away on the ship, I mean. If I know Kazuma-sama, I expect he was trying to protect me, to avoid me becoming guilty by association. That's exactly right, yes. Word perfect, in fact. If you're not the culprit, then tell me. What happened last night here in this cabin? Well, the thing is, I don't really remember. Kazuma brought me something to eat, just like he always did. And then I got myself into that wardrobe over there, just like I always did. After that, I fell asleep. Well, yes. So deeply that you didn't even stir when Kazuma-sama was killed? Well, yes. I know it sounds unbelievable, really I do, but it's the truth. If only I'd woken up, then perhaps I wouldn't be in this predicament. And for some reason, my head's still throbbing like anything. Really? Yeah, the room was probably gassed, or the food that we got was poisoned. One of the two. Is something wrong? Oh, no, it's... Please, forget it. Susato-san, you have to believe me, I didn't do it. I really don't want to doubt you. But the trouble is, there's no one else who could possibly have done this. Kazuma, I don't understand. Why? Why did this have to happen? I can't take this. Don't try to go anywhere. You're the perpetrator of this crime. You can't leave. I can't allow that to happen. I'm sorry. But Kazuma was killed right under my nose here, and I didn't do anything to stop it. And I'm supposed to just sit around, my hands tied, while whoever did this walks free? No, I can't allow that to happen. Well, what do you propose to do then? I'm going to investigate. I'm going to find out exactly what happened here. I'm going to work out who took Kazuma's life and how and why they did it. So I'm sorry, but you're going to have to excuse me. Yeah, she just took me down hard. What the... That was a Susato takedown. Susato what? What martial art form is that? I'm going to need you to prove it. Sorry, prove it? Yes, your innocence. I need evidence. How am I supposed to... Have you forgotten already what you achieved just a few weeks ago? You successfully defended yourself in a court of law. Ah, I see. She's expecting me to present some conclusive evidence. I have to get Susato-san to believe me. I'll show her some evidence right now that proves I'm not guilty of this awful crime. And luckily we do have it, because this is the same as the Henry Stickmin collection thing, which I know I haven't played on stream, but I really want to. I couldn't have put the seal on the outside of the door, which means it would have been on Kazuma-sama to put it on after I got in there.
Yes!
Tell me, when I was discovered in the wardrobe before, was this piece of paper stuck over the doors? Oh, yes, it was. I remember clearly. I thought so. Kazuma always put it in place whenever I went to sleep in there, just in case the cabin steward or another crew member decided to look inside. So naturally, he did the same last night as well. Ah, yes, of course. The gentleman who discovered you peeled that sign from the wardrobe doors before he opened them. If I were truly the culprit, I couldn't have climbed back inside the wardrobe and stuck this on the outside of the doors on my own. Yes, that's quite true. In other words, it's impossible that I killed Kazuma. She flipped us. We tried to make a break for the door so that we could go out and investigate, and she bodily flipped us and threw us against the wall. Honestly, she was kind of justified in it. Well, even if you are sprawled hopelessly on the floor, I can see why Kazuma-sama thought so highly of you. Thank you, Susato-san. Now, do you think perhaps you could help me up? Well, in the light of that evidence, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't stop you from investigating in here at least. Thank you. So you finally believe me? I'm sorry, no. What? I'm not sure yet. I can't rule out the possibility that you use some sort of conjuring trick. What? Does she think I am a magician? Like, sure, finding some way to kill him while I was already in the thing. Like poison. Or rigging something to make him trip and fall. Something like that I could see, but a conjuring trick to put the thing on the door after I was already in there seems far-fetched. For now, I suggest you investigate as thoroughly as possible in here. I'll do the same. Alright, let's get to work, Susato-san. Please don't misunderstand me. I still have my doubts. Oh. I shall be watching you to make sure you do nothing that might disturb the crime scene. I wouldn't want you using your conjuring tricks to destroy evidence, for example. Right. Well, anyway, I should make a start on investigating in here. Examine everything I can. Kazuma, I swear, I will avenge your death. Okay, but this is my badge. You see, I am a student. You know, as wild as it is, in the first 3 games, I don't think there's a time where... I think they just take away the move option if there's nowhere to move. And the converse option if there's no one in the room. These are the rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Beria, really? List of requests from the captain. Must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. So it was not allowed for him to have his sword, and yet he did. Why are you staring at me? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking. Are you more of a dangerous object or a pet? For the record, this is the most expressive her face has been in this entire game. I can't decide. Well, one thing's for sure. Either way, I wasn't supposed to be in there. Oh dear, that won't do. What's the matter, Susato-san? Whenever I'm examining things, I always find myself so focused I forget to look around properly. I'm not sure what they're getting at here. I was going to keep examining, but... I don't suppose you're as foolish as me in that regard, are you, Naruhodo-san? Careful to look all around, using the side buttons. Kazuma-sama's precious sword. Never went anywhere without it. Had to work very hard to convince the government to allow him to bring it on this ship. I imagine the Japanese government would be pretty okay with it, but the British government would probably need some convincing. What in the world? Roast chicken. Did you eat it on the floor here? I'm not a dog, Susato-san. I ate it at the table, of course. Which begs the question of when and how the plate ended up on the floor. Kazuma-sama didn't like chicken at all. Poor Kazuma-sama spent his last night on Earth with an empty belly. It's just too horrible. Now I suddenly have a guilty conscience and an achy stomach. Nothing on the table at all. Cutlery on the floor. Can't seem to remember anything that happened after dinner. Yeah, Ryu was definitely drugged by the food that Kazuma-sama brought back for him. So then perhaps you are responsible for what happened to Kazuma-sama. No, no, no. Seigi. Japanese word for justice. This is his own calligraphy.
Hot. Your grandmother told me Japanese people do not make jokes, but it is not true, I see.
Sorry?
A criminal asking investigator for information about his crime, very funny.
It wasn't supposed to be a joke. Convinced you are guilty. So last night, did you notice anything out of the ordinary at all?
Yeah, of course not. Now back to corner of room and make silent. I say no more to you.
For a minute there, he seemed a little flustered. So he definitely noticed something. And forced the door open. Both had been firmly closed. I remember reading once in a detective novel, the culprit used a needle and thread to draw a bolt across from outside the room in a situation like this. Yes, that's a clever trick, isn't it? I'm an avid reader of detective stories myself, but the door of this cabin and its frame are made of metal, and they seal together perfectly. There'd be no possibility of using that needle and thread trick here, I'm afraid. She is very grumpy, that's for sure. Books have fallen over on the shelf. Statue of some god of the sea. The shelf has been ransacked and everything mown down at once. Or we hit a wave. I'll be honest, that's not a hard thing to explain. No, it probably wasn't him doing his sword exercises. I really doubt that he would slash at the books on the wall. Like, no! Don't mess with the crime scene! What the... Why did Susato-san let us do that? Very large traveling case. Yes, it carries a lot of memories for me. Memories? What do you mean? Well, that's actually how I stowed away on this vessel. I was inside that case. Yes, I see. It says this way up in Japanese. Which in hindsight, I should have realized the foreign crewman wouldn't be able to read. I was turned over and over and over. And then I was tossed on the floor in here. Oh dear. Being a stowaway isn't as romantic as it sounds. Well, it was less painful than a Susato takedown. I somehow doubt that. You were bodily flipped against a wall. Did Kazuma write that before he died? It looks like it's written in ink. Must have knocked the ink pot from the desk when he collapsed on the floor. I suppose he wrote this message by dipping his finger in the spillage. No doubt he was in terrible pain. I'm sorry, partner, but I can't read your writing. It's in Russian. I don't think that's Japanese, Naruhodo-san. What? Then what language is it? Pains me to admit it, but I don't know. It's not a foreign script I'm familiar with. What does it mean? And what about this? Broken piece of glassware. Broken clean in two. One of the pieces seems to be missing if that's the case. It's like a cute little Netsuke fastener from a kimono outfit. That really doesn't sound like Kazuma. Beside it, what is it, I wonder? brick-like hue. Is it chalk? Where he sat when he was writing. London Diary. His last entry is incomplete. He was in the middle of writing it when the incident happened. It's out of the question. What? Kazuma-sama may have departed this world, but you must not read his private thoughts. What if it's something important, something relevant to the case? Alright, I won't read it. You should read it, though. Or Kazuma-sama. I don't like prying into people's personal matters either, but in this case, isn't the need for clues more important? Surprised we can't examine the speaker. So we can definitely examine the vent. And what's this? This is... yes, it's a bell cord contraption. Oh, nice. It's fancy. About it in a book that talked about life in Great Britain. Bring it to some servants. Sounds almost magical. Shall we give it a little try? Yes, in the interests of cultural research, obviously. Suppose nobody comes for lowly Japanese people. Oh no, I'm sure it's just that everyone is busy. Weeks since we set sail from Japan. You've really been living in that wardrobe the entire time. I think living isn't quite the right description. Oh, no, I suppose not. Well, it must have been rather exciting making this voyage in your own secret hideout. The trouble was, I never knew when a member of the crew might come in. So yes, I did basically have to live in the wardrobe. And last night was no exception. But because of that, you have no idea what was happening out here in the cabin. It's so strange that we've got the same suspect 2 cases in a row. Like, it's no surprise for the Ace Attorney series to have someone be suspected of murder multiple times. In the Phoenix Wright trilogy, I'm pretty sure Maya is accused of murder in every single game. But, like, not twice in a row. I mean, technically, no, because Phoenix wasn't the suspect in the first case in the first game. Larry was. Then Phoenix and Maya were suspects in the second case. It just seems like a strange choice. I can't imagine that I'm actually going to be the suspect. Like, it would feel a little bit overdone to be put up for this, especially since it's pretty obvious that I couldn't have done it. Given there was a seal on the outside of the cupboard while I was inside. I had to have been in there beforehand, so unless they're going to try and claim that I had a conspirator, then how would the conspirator have locked the room on the way out? And now for the last detail, the vent. Some kind of opening for a ventilator, through which fresh air can circulate into the cabin. Isn't that a little odd? What do you mean? Well, this ventilator, if that's what it is, looks like it must connect to the next door cabin. Yes, it would appear to, you're right. If its purpose is to allow fresh air in, surely it should be connected to the outside. Perhaps it's so that rain and spray don't find their way in? You would need a pretty long chain of those things. What in the world? As far as I can tell, it looks like you might be European. You've noticed the man too, have you? I have no idea who he is or how he got in here, but he looks suspicious and tall. Suspiciously tall. Naruhodo-san, don't tell me. Do you really not know who that is? No, I don't have any foreign friends or acquaintances at all. I mean, you're sort of acquainted with Giselle Brett. She's foreign. Doesn't look like a member of the crew. There's something very unusual about him. He's investigating Kazuma's desk, or is he just playing on it? I can't tell. Simply must talk with him. Does Susato-san look almost uncontrollably excited? I just want to make sure I've examined everything. I'm pretty sure I have, but... Excuse me. Excuse me, do you have a moment? This is a critical point in my investigation. Shh. Maybe I should leave him alone. He seems a little unfriendly. That might be for the best. Greetings. I hope I haven't kept you long. What exactly were you doing on Kazuma's desk just now? Ah, I see. Fascinating. Sorry, what do you see? Feels like he's looking right through me. Oh yes, everything is clear now. The train of reasoning has run its course, my deductions have crystallized. You have been in Afghanistan, I perceive. Just recently returned, if I'm not mistaken. So right now we're seeing what quality of detective this dude is. Sorry? What? And now, whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you find yourself in a most troubling predicament. Oh, well, that's true at least. But how the deuce did I know that, perhaps? It's really a most elementary deduction, hardly worth explaining. Have you perhaps managed to deduce anything else? But of course, a great many things. There's no mystery, my dear madam. For example, you have fled your native land of Russia, being as you are a merciless revolutionary. You leave 16 victims of assassination in your wake, and now travel to England to blow up the Crystal Tower. And, when the beribboned occupant of this very cabin discovered your identity, you ended his life too. Yes, I believe that summarizes the facts beautifully. No need to hide the truth now. Nothing deceives these eyes. Just to be clear, you are talking about me, are you? Oh, you aren't talking about me. You are talking about me, are you? Certainly I am. Do you see another in this cabin who fits the bill? A Russian assassin with 16 victims to his name? I don't even see one person who fits the bill. So it's true. It was you. Susato, I really thought that you were more intelligent than this. Like, you are quickly losing IQ points. Among everything else, you know that I haven't just come from Afghanistan. And you know I'm not Russian. What? And you're plotting a revolution, too. It's shameful behavior, Naruhodo-san. Absolutely wicked. No, listen, there's no way I... Could you stop doing that, please? This time I didn't deserve this. This is ridiculous. How could you do it? For pity's sake, open your eyes. I'm not a Russian revolutionary. Obviously. Oh, forgive me. And as for you, what kind of deduction was that? You were just saying the first thing that came into your head. Ah, but was I not right? Whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you do find yourself in a most troubling predicament, do you not? Yes, maybe. Ah, there you have it, you see? Well, to be honest, this ship is en route to England, and I'm in handcuffs at the scene of a murder. So I'm not really sure you could call it deduction. It's more plain observation. Indeed, an observation, my dear boy, is the basis of all deduction. My method is founded upon observation of trifles, you see. I announce my findings with brassy certitude, and more often than not, I'm right. Ha. I don't think you introduce yourself. My apologies. How remiss of me. I am none other than the greatest detective of the century, known to men and women the world over. The inimitable Sherlock Sholmes. So it's really you, the actual Sherlock Sholmes. The very same. The inimitable, actual Sherlock Sholmes. Do you know this man, Susato? The most famous detective in the world, Naruhodo-san. Of course I do. There's nobody who hasn't heard of him. What planet have I been living on, then? Let's ask him what he's deduced. He will have worked out the entire case already, I'm sure. Why do I feel uneasy about this? Okay, so there is nothing new to find out there. So, you're a great detective? Sorry, what was your name again? I'm none other than the one and only Sherlock Sholmes. Oh, I see. You're German? Sherlock, was it? No, I have no hair. I mean, I have hair. So please, call me Sholmes. You can read all about my exploits in this exciting London publication. Oh yes, Rand's magazine, full of wonderful short stories and interest articles from Great Britain. I keep bumping the trigger. I never miss an issue. I have it sent from England especially. Ah yes, here it is. The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. So, you're the protagonist in a series of short stories, then? Indeed I am. And you've read so many of your own stories, you've started to think you really are a detective. Make no mistake, I'm not the poor deluded fellow you take me for. Somehow I doubt that. Your inference is backward. Backward? My trusty biographer records my greatest detecting achievements and chronicles them in the magazine. You have a biographer, do you? Doesn't everyone? Mine goes by the name of Dr. Wilson, presently keeping shop in London. Dr. Wilson. I must say, thanks to that publication, I've been fantastically busy of late. Why, this very moment I'm returning from Asia, having solved the mystery of a cursed royal crown. Really? Can't work out whether I should take this man seriously or not. I vote not. Deduction, you see, is to me a science, logical reasoning in its purest form, as I blurt out the first thing that comes to mind, and hope something sticks. A science? Really? The astute observer notes even the most subtle of reactions in his suspect. A furtive glance, a twitch of a muscle, a slight inclination of the posture. Fingernails, arm sleeves, furrows in the skin, all these things are data. Right. And the trained logician makes deductions from this data in the blink of an eye, without really even considering it. The ultimate conclusion is, without fail, the truth. As I demonstrated only a few short moments ago. How can he look me in the eye and claim that? So do you see, I have a turn both for observation and deduction. And fame. That is what makes me the one and only Sherlock Holmes. Have you managed to deduce anything about this particular case yet? Have I managed to deduce anything? My dear fellow. I have a feeling this guy likes the sound of his own voice. Who do you suppose discovered the culprit in his most cunning hiding place? That's right. It was none other than the great detective before you, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Ah, I see. In other words, I'm in these now because of him. When I became anxious about Kazuma-sama this morning, I summoned all of the crew members to force the cabin door open. And I concealed myself among their number, gaining entry to the scene of the crime. Yes, luckily for everyone, the great detective Sherlock Holmes was on board. And the handcuffs seemed to be an excellent fit, Mr. Naruhodo. The very moment I laid eyes on the scene, two facts were immediately apparent to me. Oh really? Two facts, you say? Mr. Sholmes, tell us please, what two facts were apparent when you came into the cabin this morning? Ah, yes, but first let us be precise. The two facts in question were immediately apparent to me. Yes, I understand, but what were they? Allow me to elucidate. The two facts that I deduced from a mere momentary glance at the scene of the crime were as follows. Number one, the cabin was locked from within, rendering escape of the culprit out of the question. Number two, the victim was Russian and killed following a dispute with an acquaintance. Hold on, Mr. Sholmes. What made you think the victim was Russian? Observe the dying message left by the victim on the floor. That is the Russian word for wardrobe. Do you really think Kazuma-sama could have left a dying message in Russian? In their final moments, many find their native tongue filling their head. For this young man, Russian. Kazuma was Russian, was he? Initially, I considered garderobe. Maybe perhaps the name of the killer, a certain Robert Guard, if you will. But in the interests of thoroughness, I decided it would be wrong not to look inside the wardrobe there at least, where you found Mr. Naruhodo sleeping soundly. Quite so, I found you, the renowned Russian revolutionary killer. Why is it that I'm Russian too? I observed that you were wearing the same attire as the victim. In other words, you were acquainted. And if my memory serves, that outfit is the traditional dress of the Russian people. Your memory does not serve. Our school uniforms are the traditional dress of the Russian people? I had no idea. And I had no idea a detective could get something so wrong. I took a photograph of the victim and the message, that I might analyze it for possible hidden details. This was taken immediately after the young man was discovered, before the body was removed. Yes, Kazuma had already been taken away when I woke up. This is the first time I've actually seen him like this. Please tell me that's getting added to the court record. You alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, thank you. Well, that's a lie. There's no way he's alright in this scenario. A Russian word for wardrobe in purple ink. It would appear to have been written in the victim's final moments. Can I ask you something, Mr. Sholmes? What, pray? You mentioned Russia before as well, didn't you? You know, when you said I was a fearsome revolutionary fleeing from Russia and all of that. Ah, yes, the train of reasoning that led me to the truth. Would you mind explaining that train of reasoning to me, do you think? Certainly, if it interests you. I'm not Russian, and I don't speak Russian. Can we talk about your deduction before? The things you concluded about me, I mean. Ah, the now famously accurate troubling predicament you find yourself in. Actually, it was the other details that I was more hoping to discuss. You know, the merciless Russian revolutionary and assassin of 16 part? Ah, yes, the more sordid details. It was a fairly commonplace deduction. Here we have this morning's paper. The main headline reads, Revolutionary Villain Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. This vessel made a port call at Shanghai yesterday, and last night the young Russian was murdered. Since when was Kazuma a Russian? Sounds like Mr. Sholmes has concluded he was Russian because of what Kazuma-sama wrote on the floor. It was a simple act of reasoning to realize that the culprit of this crime was the same merciless revolutionary, and one who would kill the very man who helped him to escape after his true identity was discovered. Yes, you, Villain Bolshevik. No, how could it be me? I don't look anything like this man, just look at his face. Well, you are a fearsome revolutionary after all. Therefore, you have no doubt learned to revolutionize your appearance as well. Please. And I might add, your name does not appear on the ship's passenger list. Need I say more? Well, that's because I'm a stowaway. What about the other details? The 16 victims of assassination and blowing up the Crystal Tower. Ah, yes, the journalist clearly interviewed the man and printed all those particulars in the article. The deeds the man has perpetrated thus far, and those he is plotting. Yes, everything about this revolutionary Bolshevik was included. There can be no mistake. Do revolutionaries usually agree to interviews with newspaper reporters? What about the part where you said I was just returning from Afghanistan? Also quite clearly stated here in the article. Bolshevik recently returned after a period of subversive activities in a war-torn region of Afghanistan. Thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. I could use it. This guy really loves to hear himself talk. Where even is it, anyway? This Afghanistan place? Here, take the paper for yourself, as a little memento of this great deduction. Oh, thank you. I have absorbed all that is of interest to me within its pages, but I see no rubbish bin nearby. So is the paper in Russian? Yes, the paper is in Russian. Can't read a word of Russian. Like, we can blatantly not read Russian, and he... Oh my. Okay, Herlock butts. Page is concerned with the revolutionary. Those who see the man's beard with their own eyes never live to tell the tale. He is fearsome. Presumably the newspaper photographer was alright. Solution's obvious, of course. If he despises his beard to that degree, he need only shave it off. We'll read the details about this later, but in the meantime, this is definitely the real murderer. I'll finish the conversation before I look at it. On the back. Cast your eye over it sometime if the interest takes you, though you may need someone to interpret. Why do I feel like this guy might not even know Russian? Like, he is just straight up deducing what it says in Russian. It's all written in Russian. I couldn't hope to read it. I suppose it wouldn't hurt just to glance at the article. Maybe there might be a picture or two. Okay. This is interesting. Looks like it might be interesting. Can't read a single word. Look at the picture. Perhaps it's about a beautiful young Russian princess, do you think? She is very pretty, isn't she? Suppose you enjoy articles like this, do you? I don't know, I can't make any sense of it. Oh, I'm glad you've noticed this article. Allow me to give you a short summary of its contents. Oh, thank you. He pops up everywhere, this Mr. Sholmes. It's about the disappearance of a young lady last night. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novovik Ballet disappears from Shanghai. During a performance in Shanghai, the famous dancer was reported missing. She is, of course, the talented young Nikolina Pavlova. Pavlova. Why do I get the feeling that might be a reference to Pavlovian conditioning? Let's see how the case goes. Hang on, I actually want to check something. Pavlov. Okay, his name was Ivan, not Nicholas. It would appear the woman was in costume when she was found to be missing from her dressing. If she was found to be missing from her dressing room, how on earth would you know what she is wearing? Wearing the diamond tiara you see pictured, which is worth some 20,000 rubles. How much is that? I have no idea, but I'm quite sure it must be an unbelievable sum of money. Susato's eyes are shining like diamonds themselves. Susan, don't steal it. I might just make her name Susan. The tiara is the property of the Novovic Ballet. It would seem the director is beside herself with worry. Yes, I'm not surprised. The company is most anxious to recover both Miss Pavlova and the valuable tiara. They've requested international assistance at all ports with sailings to Great Britain. Could this be a case of another Russian fleeing his or her country? Does seem to be the Russian thing to do right now. Not even going to dignify that with a response, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, so we've got them separately listed now. Why do I have a feeling this is going to be a relevant detail? There isn't much to see in this picture, except for the Russian word, which clearly shows that it was not written by the victim. But I wonder how far into the case we will have to get before we can establish that. Indian curry. I'm guessing that I can't show him... Oh. I've never seen anything like this. Most extraordinary writing. You said the same earlier this morning, I think. Indeed, but its uncommonness is so remarkable, I felt the need to say it anew. Yes, I do believe these characters may be a crude attempt at a Japanese script. Mr. Naruhodo, I don't like to be the one to tell you this, but I think Mr. Sholmes is trying to say that your handwriting is a little untidy. Is he making fun of me? Alright, let's get this last detail. Before we started talking, you were examining Kazuma's desk, weren't you? Kazuma, ah yes, the victim. Did you notice anything useful? Anything at all? Observe for a moment the desktop of the victim. You see that the victim was engaged in penning some text. London Diary. Kazuma was keeping notes of the trip. Ah, but I don't think you should read his private writings. It could upset people. Tragic. And something you ought to perhaps elucidate before the act of reading. You mean you've read it already? It is my business to know what other people do not. Yes, believe it or not, I know a smattering of Japanese. Oh, I see. Well, you're about to know what a Susato takedown is. Yeah, no, she's just going to let that slide. Susato-san, aren't you going to throw the detective with one of your trademark takedowns? I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san, what on earth do you mean? Life is so unfair. I don't like her. Anyway, to return to the matter at hand, namely, this diary belonged to the victim. It would appear the final sentence is incomplete, as if the author were cut short. Tell me, what is the nature of the writing? Pray, be precise as to the details. Oh, but I thought you knew Japanese. A smattering, dear boy, a smattering. Sayonara, bonsai, mikado. Naro naro. I trust you are suitably impressed. But this diary is littered with complicated-looking characters, of which I can read precisely none. So what was all that showing off about before, then? If you'd be so kind as to show me, I would... I'm much obliged, my dear madam. Final entry here in Kazuma-sama's diary consists of just 2 short sentences. The first reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. Huh? These are very deep waters. Pray, go on. Second sentence reads, 1:35 a.m. It looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? What on earth does that mean? I have no idea. I've never heard that expression before. The ventilator grill, you say? Man was presumably referring to the lattice there on the wall, which connects to the adjoining cabin. Yes, the adjoining cabin. Like, if there's no external trauma, then the obvious answer is poison. Either liquid or gaseous. So, I believe I've given you enough to consider for the time being, at least. Do you have somewhere to go? As it happens, the victim's writings in his diary have piqued my interest. The matter warrants further investigation, I believe, and if I'm still too long, the seasickness takes hold. Oh, I suppose you're thinking of investigating the cabin next door, which the ventilator connects to? Great detectives are a curious breed. Our minds rebel at stagnation. We crave mental exaltation. So yes, I intend to investigate, hence the truth will become clear soon enough. Oh, the trouble is, I already know this guy is going to be, like, one of the main characters, and I am already suffering for his existence. Like, this is Larry Butts, if Larry Butts were, like, even more problematic. Like, in a lot of ways, Larry Butts from the Phoenix Wright games is just unlucky, but this guy... oh, this guy is going to be a problem. You think that perhaps we could go with you? No, that would be somewhat complicated. What? But why? A simple glance at your wrist should reveal the answer. Oh, these After all, you're the prime suspect in this matter, no? There's no point trying to turn it into a question. You're the one who decided I was the culprit in the first place. Whatever do you mean? I have no recollection of naming you as the culprit at any point. You must be joking. You just said it. Only a moment ago. Dear me, you are clearly misguided. I would have no cause to say such a thing. Well, actually, Mr. Sholmes, I did hear you say that too. You're quite sure? Well, that's very strange. Wouldn't have said you had the face of a criminal, you know. Not really. So what, you were looking at my knees before? Some great detective you are. Well, anyway, that was then, and this is now. What do you mean? What I mean, sir, is this. If you are the culprit, then you must play the part more convincingly. Roll over and accept your fate. Now he's just being plain rude. Somehow I feel like this whole experience has made Ryu less Canadian. But at the same time, he still hasn't upfront corrected this guy on his assumptions about his own nationality or Kazuma's, or really much of anything else. And off he goes, having just laughed in my face. His sense of humor's as twisted as his name. Naruhodo-san, what are you just standing there for? Let's go and investigate the cabin next door as well. Aren't you forgetting something? What about these? There's no way I can... I really don't feel like I deserve this. After Kazuma-sama's spent his dying moments struggling to leave us a clue, you're willing to give up? You're just going to roll over and accept your fate? Ugh. As if you gave me any choice in the rolling over part. I think we still have some investigation to finish off here first, don't we? Let's carry on examining what we can in this cabin while we wait for a chance to slip next door. I've already looked at everything. The situation doesn't look good for me, but there are still things I can do to help myself. And I owe it to Kazuma to do everything I can to find a way out of this, and bring the real culprit to justice. Is that... Oh my. It is the detective. Or the investigator. Something wrong, Naruhodo-san? Oh no, it's just that crewman's standing by the door. I can't help feeling like I've seen him somewhere before. Oh yes, you're right, he does look familiar. Excuse me, sir. Yes, what can I do for you? I recognize that face, but it can't be. It is. I didn't know you were here, Inspector Hosonaga. Hello again. What are you doing here? I think that should be my line. I was so stunned when I saw you, my heart stopped. Okay, but have you ransacked this crime scene too? Or have I been looking at it unmodified? Nearly stopped, I hoped. Oh, I was so stunned when I saw you, my heart stopped, and then she said nearly stopped, I hoped. I received some special orders to go undercover as a member of the crew on board this ship. Again? You certainly seem to enjoy undercover work, Inspector. If there's anything I can do to help you, please ask. I never expected to see this man on board, but perhaps his presence can help me out of this hopeless situation. I don't think it's really that hopeless. Like, honestly, we already have sufficient proof to suggest that it's not possible for us to have been the culprit. Like, again, we could not shut ourselves in the closet and put the seal on. So are they going to claim that Kazuma put the seal on after we killed him? Like, one way or another, it just doesn't work. It's not like the last time where we were caught waving around a gun and it looked like the guy had been shot. Honestly, I think we might call it there, because it's getting late. We only really have about 15 more minutes where we could continue, and I imagine that this would get that this is going to continue getting pretty dang involved. So it might be best to leave it here for the day. We won't always be able to find an ideal stopping place here, especially because these cases can get kind of long. I'd say that on average each case is probably going to be in the 4 to 6 hour range. So around 5 hours a piece, and that's obviously longer than I tend to stream, so we probably won't be fitting many cases wholesale into individual streams, but I'll do my best to make it work. Yeah. Good night, B. Rafkin. I hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate y'all. Hope to see you next time. Later, folks.